Welcome to another episode of the Everything Antarctica podcast. I'm Matty Jordan. I'm here with Johnny Harrison, and we're continuing our conversation about the day in the life in Antarctica. We're going to talk about some of the different things that we do in our day-to-day life, sort of life admin type things. People are quite curious about how we go about our daily lives, so we'll have a chat about that. Where do you want to start, Johnny?
I guess one of the first ones is laundry is probably a big part of it, and a lot of people, and again this is kind of more specific to our situation at Scott Base and how we did it down there, and typically we would find that you do your laundry usually on the weekend or on the in the evenings, and there's a bunch of washing machines, and because there's not very much moisture down there, we have a drying room. So once you've done a load of washing in the washing machine, just like you normally would do at home, instead of hanging it out to dry outside, obviously a bit cold to do that, we have these drying rooms, so you can a whole bunch of racks and stuff that you just put your clothes out on that, and dries pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, sort of a couple of hours for your undies and your socks, and then a few more hours for t-shirts and shorts and things like that. But
yeah, it's a pretty efficient way, and just because that moisture content down there is so low, because it's so dry, because the temperature is so low, we find that things dry really quickly, which is great.
Yeah.
So the room's typically heated quite well as well, so it gets that compounding effect of the warm temperatures and the dry, so it doesn't take long to dry things at all. Yeah,
for those that are just moving out of home for the first time, if they find themselves in Antarctica and they don't know how to use a washing machine, that's going to be something that you learn how to do pretty quickly. So there's no one down there that does your washing for you. This is a personal task that you need to sort out. It sounds pretty standard, but yeah, you look after your own washing, you clean your own sheets, clean your own clothes, your towels, and all that sort of stuff. So if that's something that you don't know how to do, it's probably worth having a bit of a look into. It's pretty simple, and you essentially just put the powder in and push a button, and it's good to go. So yeah, definitely something that you need to learn and need to do yourself.
We often have like a bit of a rush, though, typically on Sundays on the day off, so you sort of want to time your washing cycle, and you want to be pretty mindful of setting an alarm on your phone or whatever, so you go up the moment your washing's done and go and collect it out of the washing machine, so you're not holding up the next person, and go and get it dry as quick as possible. So yeah,
and it comes back to the different jobs and different people having different routines. So I know that we spoke about comms operators and how they work in shifts, but oftentimes if it's the middle of the night and nothing's happening, they might take that as an opportunity to go and do their laundry or do some other life admin. So it's not just everybody at 10 a.m. on Sunday just getting in there and taking over all of the machines in the laundry. So yeah, depending on your schedule, I mean, some people do it after work on a midweek, and yeah, it seems to work out pretty well. So you just go in there, if there's a free machine, chuck your stuff in. If there's not, then come back later.
Yep, easy as that. The next one we should probably talk about is how do you get your hair cut down in Antarctica?
Yeah, well, it's easy enough for us.
Yeah. No problems here.
Yeah, not so hard. But for us, there's an area set up in the carpenter's shop with a little stool and some hair clippers and a mirror. And we also have the benefit of being in the carpenter's shop, like we've got vacuums and things in there to clean it all up. So there's kind of two ways that guys go about it, right? You either shave your head or you grow it out. And some people try and style it, but there's no hairdresser at Scott Base. There's no one specifically employed to cut hair. And some people get pretty good at it. I was, over the winter, had a reciprocal agreement with one of the guys down there. I would cut his hair and he would make sure that I didn't miss any spots when I shaved my head. So yeah, just a nice little area that we've got set up there. But at different stations, this is quite different. So McMurdo in the summertime actually have a barber shop. So there's someone who's employed down there to cut hair, and you can go in and I've never actually used it because I've never needed to. But my understanding is that it's a tip for service. So you go in there and you just tip the hairdresser to cut your hair. So yeah, it varies for females. I mean, yeah, I don't have any personal experience, obviously, but some of them just trim the end off and, yeah, try and keep the hair tidy and things like that. But Yeah.
It also depends, obviously, in summer with a lot more people, the chance of finding somebody that either has a bit more experience cutting hair or is more comfortable in doing that. You're more likely to get a better result, particularly potentially. Whereas in winter, when you're down to those smaller numbers, that's when it can be a little bit more challenging. But I mean, that's also when a lot of people just end up letting it grow out, and I mean that sort of extends to facial hair too, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't touch my beard for the best part of a year, so yeah. I mean, you can go down one or two options. You either keep it and grow it, or you chop it off. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Just one of those things, day-to-day life that you don't really think about, but people find solutions for it and just push through and make it happen. The other thing about when it comes to hair, people just don't care. Like when you're down there, there's just so many things going on, and because you develop such strong relationships with people don't care if you're going to cut all your hair off. You know, you might get a joke for half a day and people will be like, oh, that looks interesting, oh, that's new. But I mean, the first time I shaved my head was in Antarctica, and people were just like, oh, it actually looks all right. So, you know, you're not going to get bullied or anything like that. It's the fact of life, and people are just really accepting of whatever you choose to do. I mean, there's always crazy hairstyles that come out. Some people have mohawks, and some people shave mullets and do all sorts of different things with their head, and you know, it just becomes normal, and it's just how it is.
I think it's that environment, right? So you're away from what we would often term the real world for a wee while. So a lot of those things that you might not necessarily try at home, give it a go. Why not? And generally speaking, if you can keep things low maintenance, then that's just all round easier. You get on with doing other things. Yeah,
it's that full creative freedom, right? So people often have little things that they do with their spare time, like little projects and whatever. But hey, full creative freedom with your hair and your beards and things like that. You just make it work and experiment. If you don't like it, you shave it off and then try again when it grows back. So.
And one of those ones around Movember, so like in the month of November, in New Zealand we have this thing called Movember, and do you want to speak a bit to that, because obviously you supported that this last year?
Yeah, so there are quite a few stations. I mean, Scott Base definitely does it, and I know the Aussie stations are involved as well, but Movember's a charity to raise awareness for men's health, particularly around testicular, prostate cancer, and also men's mental health as well. So it's a charity fundraiser that in November every year encourages men to grow a moustache, hence the Movember. And all that does is it raises awareness for a conversation to say, you know, if you walk down the street and you see a guy with a moustache, it might prompt just something in your mind to be like, oh, you know, maybe I'm not feeling well, I should go see a doctor, or, you know, I need to have a discussion about things that aren't going so well. So it's one of those things that we do just to raise some money and support a really worthwhile charity. Last year, I got to the end of my deployment in October, and I'd be growing a beard for the full duration. And I really didn't want to shave it off at the end of October to then just grow a moustache back for November. So I fundraised some money as part of a Movember campaign to shave my beard off. So at that point in time, I'd had the beard for a year. And yeah, the idea was to take what most people, particularly on social media, only knew me as a guy with a beard. And yeah, it's kind of like a reverse haircut, right? Well, it is a haircut, but it's the feeling of, you know, it doesn't matter. You shave it off. And although that had been kind of become a bit of my identity for a period of time, but to shave it off for a worthwhile cause was great, and ended up raising about $5,000 for
Awesome.
for Movember. And yeah, thank you to very generous donations that came in from various people across social media, but that money gets put to good use. And yeah, just another fun thing that we do with facial hair down in Antarctica.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's another one of those things as far as that life admin kind of people wouldn't necessarily think about, but when you put an Antarctic twist on it?
So I get quite a few questions about mail, and how do you receive post, and can you get goodies, and can we send things, and how does that all work? So in the summer is obviously very different to the winter. In the summer we can be at a point where we're receiving mail once a week. You know, there's sort of 3 flights a week if everything goes well, and you know, that provides the opportunity for family and friends to send things down. Often it's just chocolate and snacks, or a letter, or pictures of the kids and things like that. So in summer, yeah, quite regular. And we have the opportunity to purchase things from the store and send them back to New Zealand as well, in the cargo. But in winter, when you go extended periods of time without having a flight, there's no way to get mail down to you or to get mail from Antarctica back to the real world. So there can be quite extended periods there. I know we went between May and August with no mail, which also meant no fresh fruit and a whole bunch of other things. So yeah, it's quite different, but people are quite interested. I often get questions about, how do I send you a goodie pack, or can I send you some chocolate from the US or from Canada or from Australia and things like that. So it does happen occasionally in the summer. You can get quite regular deliveries of mail, but in the winter it doesn't happen very often.
And the key there is that that's specific to the New Zealand and American programs. So even the American program operates a little bit differently, where obviously due to the numbers and the sheer volume of people going through the American program, to sort of support a large scale mail drop system, they try and encourage that it's more things like letters and that kind of stuff, and obviously coming all the way from the States. So being involved in the Antarctic, you're very aligned with the idea of what your carbon footprint is, and actually what that sending something, well, does this actually need to be sent? And I don't think anyone comes back from Antarctica wishing they brought more stuff down there. So there's kind of some of that stuff that you sort of just bear in mind. And often if people asked if they want to send stuff down, that's fine, no worries, thank you for the thought, but actually let's just hold on to that, and we can enjoy that together when I get back, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's not like people are just sitting down doing online shopping 24/7, because there's no reliable way to get what you purchase down there, and it is opportunistic most of the time. So as Johnny mentioned, it's not like we're purchasing this stuff and it's there's a flight reserved for it. It's like, if there's space, then your stuff might make it on the plane, but being very aware of that carbon footprint of things like that, it's pretty rare that people just go completely crazy and buy a whole heap of stuff to send down. It's letters and things from family and friends that take priority.
And there's definitely no Amazon next day shipping down there. And we don't need it down there. That's the last thing you need.
No, and it comes back to the whole mentality of how you go about your day to day, right? People just use what they've got available, and whether that's to fix an engineering problem or just to put something together personally, you make things, you make do with what you've got down there, and we don't need online shopping.
What other ones we got?
The other question that we get quite a lot is, what's the living situation like? And again, this varies between summer and winter, it varies between different Antarctic stations. But for us, we are sharing rooms in summer, either a bedroom with 2 people in it for the long-term staff that are there for the duration of the season. And for those that are there a little bit longer, can be sharing a bedroom with up to 6 people. So the different accommodation rooms serve different purposes. If you're only there for a week or a couple of days before you go out into the field or before you fly back to New Zealand, then you're probably going to be in a room with more people. If you're there for a longer duration, then chances are that you're only going to be sharing with one person. In the winter, it's quite a bit different. So because we've got a surplus of accommodation and not many people, you do tend to get a room to yourself in the winter, which is great. You can make it your own sort of personal space. You can decorate it, put photos on the wall, and make it feel a little bit more homely. And some people do some rejigging of some furniture. So the rooms come with bunk beds. Some people remove the top bunk and put it in storage and then reassemble it before the summer crew get back in when they need the additional space. But it's entirely up to you how you want to decorate your room. Mine was pretty bland. I left it pretty standard because I didn't want to have to bring an extra bed back in and put it together when I'm trying to get ready to leave, or there's an influx of new people and I'm adjusting to a different way of living and working. So I don't know, did you experience the same? Did you fiddle with your room? And
I didn't fiddle with the room too much. It was just pretty much same as you, just left it standard. But interesting to note that mostly single beds. So there's only single beds for for Scott Base. So some people would again potentially put a couple of the beds together so that they kind of had a bigger mattress space and sort of a bit more comfortable that way. But again, as you sort of say, it's down to personal preference and whether or not you can be bothered sort of messing around with your room just to put it back, as you say, for when the summer team arrives. So can be quite a bit of work.
Yeah, and the difference there, I mean, between stations, the only other one that I've really experienced is McMurdo, but again, they get a room to themselves over winter, and they're sharing with, again, up to sort of 5-6 people in the summertime in certain areas. But in the winter, the way that the bedrooms are set up and the way that most people are accommodated is you'll have a bedroom, and then in the middle there'll be a small bathroom, and then there'll be another bedroom on the side. So 2 people in individual rooms will share a bathroom in the middle, and the doors have a lock on either side. So that's a little bit different to us, where we have a separate sort of ablutions or toilet and shower facility where you actually have to leave your room to go and have a shower and get ready for the day and wind down. So there's a little bit of a difference there, and the distinction will vary across all Antarctic stations.
So one of the things that makes Scott Base slightly different to probably some of the other stations as well is that being that it's all interconnected buildings through one common linkway, we end up having one main entrance way, and that means that we've got a whole bunch of lockers. So pretty much everyone on station gets a locker, and when you arrive on station, that's where your sort of your cold weather gear gets sort of sorted out, and that's where you leave most of that. So do you want to talk us through what you kind of have in your locker and how that changes between summer and winter? Again,
yeah, it is definitely seasonal. So in summer you get one locker because there's a lot of people and not so many lockers, or there's enough lockers, you get a locker per person. But for me, I left all of my outside cold weather gear in there, and then all of my day-to-day clothing would stay in my room. But essentially, I would have my sort of mid-layer, sort of fleece and hiking pants pretty much was what I used. And I'd have my salopettes, which are the extreme cold weather overalls that we have, and then my ECW jacket, which is the big puffy one for extreme cold weather. And those would be the things that I would have in there. I would also have a grab and go bag, so whenever I was leaving station, I just had a backpack which had my clothing in there, a spare pair of socks, a beanie, a pair of goggles. Often in summertime I'm just wearing sunglasses, but I have a pair of goggles in there just in case. And the other thing I had in there was a pee bottle. So every time we go outside, we don't just pee wherever we want. We take a bottle there, and then that gets brought back to base and processed there. So I knew whenever I was leaving station, if I just grabbed that bag, I'd be okay for pretty much whatever adventure I was going on. I had everything in there. Sometimes I'd have a little snack in there, like a little chocolate bar or something like that, which will get me through the day. And then, I'd fill my water bottle up, put my water bottle in there, and that was me done. So in the winter, I had 3 lockers because you've got the space, so you take it over. So I had a locker for temperatures between 0 degrees and minus 20, and then I had another locker which was essentially from minus 20 and colder, maybe up to minus 40. And then the other locker just had random miscellaneous things like my work boots, spare socks, my head torch, and a few other things like that, and some cameras. So I had a bunch of cameras in my locker as well. So depending on what I was doing and where I was going, I would know that, it's a warm day, I only need to wear the clothes that are in my up to minus 20 locker. If it was colder than that, then I'd know I'd go to a different locker. And if I was out taking photos, I'd know that I'd open the third locker and grab my camera out and go from there. So is that pretty similar to you?
Yeah, definitely. And how good is it to have multiple lockers in winter? So the other thing on the back of that, though, is because obviously all our cold weather gear is at one end of the base, so that means that when we're sleeping in our accommodation at the other end of the base, we make sure that we've got potentially another jacket or something that we can layer up very quickly should we need to. So if the fire alarm was to sound and we needed to actually evacuate the station to sort of go around the station to get to where the safe area is, we'd have enough layers there that we could just kind of grab and go in a different way there.
Yeah. And that probably brings up an interesting question around storage, so around where we keep our clothing and things in our bedrooms. And again, different between summer and winter. But in winter, you've got the whole room basically. There's lots of drawers and cupboards and things like that to hang your clothes up. But in summer, you're sharing that space with, could be up to 6 people. So You typically have an area of a cupboard that's reserved for you. You'll typically have a set of drawers underneath your bed where you can put some things, and then some storage on like a little shelf next to your bed. So that would be for your phone and your wallet and things like that. But there's plenty of room. You really don't need to take a whole lot of stuff to Antarctica, and this was only something that I learned after sort of my second or third trip. It's like the amount of stuff that you pack, you can probably half, and then you can probably half it again, and that will be fine to get you through the entire duration, because you're mainly just wearing thermals if you're going outside, your base layer, which are good to wear for a couple of days. They're made from merino wool, so they don't smell or anything like that. They're all good. And then just your general day-to-day wear, so you often just end up wearing the same pants for a couple of days as well, and just change t-shirts and pretty much wear the same jumpers and things like that when you're cruising around. So yeah, I mean, storage is not really an issue. There's plenty of room.
And you also have a bit of storage. Most roles will have a sort of a work area, and so a lot of people will also have a little bit of storage at their work area. So often you don't have to have all of your work stuff in the same spot as you've got all your clothing or any of that kind of stuff. There's obviously a fair bit of space around the base to position things.
Yeah, and all of your work gear will stay particularly in your work area as well. So I would often leave my work boots underneath my desk. And if I knew that I had a task that I had to do, I'd just kick my shoes off under the desk, put my work boots on, and then I'm like ready to go into the areas that require footwear.
I see you posted a video not so long ago about leaving your shoes outside your door in your bedroom. Do you want to sort of go into why we do that?
I mean, there's a few reasons, but generally it's to not wake up your roommates and to keep the smell in the corridor. So as you're walking down, before you get into bed, often, again, you're sharing room with, could be up to 6 people, and you don't want to open the door and then be fiddling around with shoelaces and zippers and Velcro and things like that. So you just slip your shoes off, leave them outside your door, and then you can make your way into the room as quietly as possible, because what you don't want to do is be waking up all of your roommates and then they get up and they've had a bad sleep. And then, so yeah, we tend to kick our shoes off and leave them outside the door, and yeah, it's just how we do things.
Yeah, it's all about that community thing, right? As far as looking after each other and being respectful and mindful of what's going on. So your presence is important, and how you present yourself. So.
Yeah, definitely. So we spoke about delivery of things that people from New Zealand are sending down to Scott Base, or people from elsewhere in the world are sending down to Antarctica. But there is actually a small shop that's available there on station as well that sells things like souvenirs, but also confectionery, so your little chocolates. But the main one that most people would spend their money on down there is toiletries. So if you run out of toothpaste, you can go and get restocked. If you run out of deodorant, you can go and get restocked. If you run out of shampoo, you can go and get restocked. So those little things there are available for people, and yeah, pretty much the only place where you spend money.
And some stations do that differently as well, because I know that some stations, they provide all of that kind of thing. So for us down at Scott Base, because we're only a 5-hour flight away, it's the quickest duration to get down there for us. It's we can move a lot of cargo quite quickly. It means that we end up just you purchase those things yourself just as you normally would back home. So major.
And many people want to avoid spending money down there. So I know for myself, I definitely overcompensated for the amount of stuff that I needed to take down there. So I took 4 tubes of toothpaste for the entire winter and managed to get through about 2.5 of them. So I had spare before I left, because I had it there, and there's no point me taking my toothpaste back to New Zealand when I can just go to the shop and buy more. So we've got an area there that's called the Skewer, and it's a community area where people that are leave their leftover things. So I just put my extra toothpaste in the Skewer so someone else can pick it up. I mean, it was a brand new packet, so not so gross, but often you find things like leftover shower gel or people's clothing that they don't want to take home. It's kind of just like a free op shop. You just come and go, you pick out what you want, you leave what you don't need or that doesn't need to come back to you, because you can replenish it quite easily. Sometimes you find food in there, like pre-wrapped chocolate bars that someone's purchased that they don't want to take back. So because of the carbon footprint of transferring things to and from Antarctica, if something's already made its way down there, we try and leave it there and repurpose it so someone else can pick it up as well.
And as you say, around particularly the clothing, if you've got a lot of life left in a particular piece of clothing, it's no different to your thrift store, as you say, your op shop back home. Let's actually use it and get all the wear that we possibly can. And most of the time, if you're going down for a summer season, you'll be coming back to a New Zealand summer. So you're probably not going to need all your cold weather gear, particularly the moment you get back to New Zealand, back to reasonable temperatures.
Yeah, McMurdo have got a whole building, so there's an area that they call the Skua, and that's full of all sorts of things, from books to footwear to clothing to
games and puzzles and
all sorts of things. So yeah, it's just that community spirit of, if you don't need something, you just leave it there for someone else to pick up, and then they're good to use it as well, and then they'll hand it on to someone else. But it makes for some interesting conversations, because you might have dropped something in the Skua the year previous, someone's picked it up, worn it for the winter, and then they've dropped it in the Skua, and then someone from the summer crew has picked it up and they're wearing it, and then you get back down and you're going, oh, that's my t-shirt. I left this here a year ago. So it goes through that phase, and then people are like, oh, well, it's not yours anymore, like, you're not getting it back, you donated. And I was like, oh yeah,
fine,
I don't want it. But it's interesting how that life cycle continues, because I've seen a few people with the same shirt that has lived at Scott Base for years, and it just keeps recycling through because it's still good quality and people get away with it. So yeah, you just wash it and then it's good to go.
One of the questions from this one will be, what is a skua, and why is it called skua?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so a skua is a seabird, an Antarctic seabird, and they call it the South Polar skua because it lives down south, but you do get skuas elsewhere in the world. And they're, I guess you'd call them scavengers, right? So they fly around and they'll eat penguin eggs, they'll eat the placenta from newly birthed seals, they'll eat fish, they'll just have a go at anything. So it's that idea of, there's something that is of no use to, like, let's say the seal, the placenta's of no use to the seal, so the skua comes along and eats it. And yeah, it's the same sort of concept. Like, if there's something that you don't need anymore, you go and take it to the skua and someone else picks it up. That's not to say that Antarcticans are scavengers. It's just, it's a natural life cycle of the way that we do things. So
nice.
Cool. We hope this has given you a better understanding of the day-to-day things that we get up to down in Antarctica and some of the little quirky things that we have. Obviously, these vary between different stations, but it's nice to be able to portray that life down there is actually not so different to general life. We still have chores to do, we still have life admin, and we've still got things that we need to help other people out with. We just live with a whole lot of extra people, so we need to be additionally cautious about some of the things that we get up to. So if you've got any other questions about this episode or in general, please leave them in the comments below and we'll address them in a future episode. That's it for this week's episode of the Everything Antarctica podcast. We hope you enjoyed learning about day-to-day life in Antarctica. That's it for today's episode of the Everything Antarctica podcast. Thanks for listening. If you want to find out more about us as hosts, you can find us on Instagram at Maddie K. Jordan and at Johnny Harrison NZ. We're also on socials. You can find us at Everything Antarctica. This episode will be released on all streaming platforms, and the long form video will be found on YouTube. Check us out wherever you listen to your podcasts.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating. This will really help us in our mission to make this podcast as good as it possibly can be. Please share this episode with your friends and social networks so we can spread the word to more people.
Until next time, stay cool.